EyeOpener. When the lottery is your financial plan. I used to joke that I was an amateur lottery player but someday hope to go pro. Now, I firmly believe that this quip has now become the financial plan for the majority of Americans. Not hyperbole, more of an observation. An observation that has seen seemingly correlations between ever-increasing inequality, inflation, which is the devaluation of the American currency, and the ever-increasing grand prizes for these mega lotteries. It occurred to me that the amount of money in the lottery is the amount of money put in by the masses. That $1.5 billion that was recently won in California, I hope that ticket didn't get burnt up in those fires. That $1.5 billion came from people's hard-earned dollars. And when $100 million was once the most that the public would contribute to the lottery, Americans are now willing to ante up 10.5 times that amount. In other words, those who gambled on the lottery gave 10.5 times more of their hard-earned dollars to the lottery. Whether this means that the same number of people are giving 10.5 times more money or that 10.5 times more people are playing the lottery is less relevant than the fact that the economic desperation in America is 10 times greater than it was just a few years ago. While I know of no definitive studies showing a correlation, the richest man in the world today is worth 3 times what the richest man in the world was worth just a few years ago. From Jeff Bezos, who was only worth $150 billion, to Elon Musk, who is currently worth $450 billion, the rich have gotten richer and the rest of us have gotten more desperate. I wonder if the wealth of all American billionaires has increased by tenfold as has the amount of the lottery. Money, however, is just one resource that seems to have been funneled to an ever-shrinking number of Americans. I guess that's what happens when you price resources at values that fewer people can afford. I guess that's what happens when your government allows the rich to direct the policy of your nation. Under an economic system as has developed in the United States of America, you end up with a single couple owning a majority of the water in California. That's what happens when a billionaire is allowed to put a nuclear waste facility over one end of the Ogallala Aquifer, which traverses 8 states, and an oil pipeline over the other end. That's what happens when you allow someone like Bill Gates to own more farmland than anyone else in America. The list only ends where any particular resources ends. The rich won't stop their endless hoarding. They can't stop as if accumulating more money, power, and influence is a compulsion or addition. Given the amount of their resources, the only entity that could have stopped them would have been the government. Too bad they own the government. You can't find a successful politician who doesn't have a wealthy donor in their pocket and in their ear these days, given the fact that America is trending towards a neo-feudalism where the masses own nothing. It is apparent that wresting power from the elites is and will continue to be harder as the years go by. It's actually getting harder to see a way towards a peaceful transfer of power. Too bad they control the growing number of autonomous weaponry. For years, people have either called me a doomsayer or simply viewed me as such, but they never ever seem to be able to answer one simple question. What examples do you see today that indicate we're trending in a good direction? Not once did anyone have an answer other than to say, look at the stock market, to which I would say a majority of all stocks on the New York Stock Exchange are owned by 1% of people invested in stocks. A great stock market indicates a great economy for 1% of the nation, not the majority of said nation. To find out other ways you're being screwed by your current leaders, check out the posts on this blog daily. Learn about the biggest and worst issues that America and its people face today. You can also check in to hear about those issues that America and its people will face in the near and distant future. If, however, you would like to discover possible solutions to either mitigate the worst impacts of these issues or solutions to avoid them altogether, keep listening. The problems we face are not as complicated as so many leaders and news reports claim. They are man-made and are only claimed as complicated so those who are responsible can maintain control. For example, there is a persistent argument that moving government is like turning a cruise ship around. It is supposedly a long process that can only be achieved incrementally. While this may be true for laws and policies that benefit the majority of Americans, it does not seem to be so for that smallest of American minorities. When one examines the policies and laws that benefit that minority, known as the elite or the rich, the speed at which those laws are passed is exponentially faster. While most of us sit on the deck chairs waiting for the Titanic to avoid the myriad of icebergs of which we seem to continually run afoul, the elite ride comfortably in speedboats. If, according to our Constitution, all men are created equal, why do the rich live quite different lives than the rest of us? Where is our speedboat? In 2018, Chris Osman wrote a book highlighting the problems humanity would face if more power, wealth, and control were funneled to a small group of individuals, groups, or organizations. In that book, Mr. Osman provided solutions from himself and others to the inevitable problems we would all face. In it, he also provided a means for the public to analyze, compare, and contrast the words and deeds of those we've chosen to follow against our real-world experiences. To this end, Mr. Osman provides the means for readers to disseminate information as provided by their news sources of choice, their elected officials, and any other authority they choose to follow. The book, titled Solutions, Enough Complaining, Let's Fix America offers a means to hold leaders up, not just to a higher standard than is currently accepted, but to one that will improve lives. I finally made the pros. Click the link below and get your copy of Solutions today.